Eve, the acclaimed first woman of creation, mother of all life according to the biblical doctrine, might be a repackaged historical Egyptian queen whose identity in turn is linked to a Sumerian Anunnaki goddess. Biblical doctrine teaches that Eve, the woman created from the rib of Adam, is the sole first woman in creation. This video explores the connections between the biblical character with the given name Eve, the 18th Dynasty Egyptian Queen, and the Sumerian Goddess Ninkhursag. Over time, the story of Eve and creation has been known to be a significant part of Christian belief and a basis of the religion. Consequently, it became a topic of much interest and debate among theologians, historians, and scholars. Detailed research has been carried out concerning the biblical story of creation with much due diligence, reviewing a much older ancient Sumerian text. These efforts have resulted in a shattering of a world-indoctrinated paradigm. 3-in-1. Ninkhursag is a goddess in Sumerian mythology, often associated with fertility, childbirth, and motherhood. She is sometimes referred to as the Lady of the Mountains, as is seen as a nurturing and life-giving figure. She is involved in the creation of humanity and plays a role in shaping and giving life to the first humans, including one referred to as Adama, Eve, referred to as the first woman and the mother of all mankind according to biblical doctrine, had a conversation with a snake and went against the dictates of her god, Nefertiti, Isis. Nefertiti symbolized as Isis, a goddess in ancient Egyptian mythology. She is associated with fertility and motherhood and is a powerful, multifaceted deity with a broader range of attributes and significance beyond just fertility. The Lady of Life. Have we discovered why it is that the Bible describes how Eve was formed by God from a rib taken out of Adam's side? The name Eve is said in Genesis to signify the mother of all living, and this is repeated in the 1st century Antiquities of the Jews, wherein Josephus explains, "Now a woman is called in the Hebrew tongue, Isa, she-man. The name of this woman was Eve, which signifies the mother of all living." Taking a look at the name Eve, we found that Eve is actually pronounced Hava, sounding somewhat like Hava. Hava can mean either breath, as in the breath of life, or even life. So the Genesis verse chapter 3 verse 20 would read like, "And Adam called his wife's name Life, because she was the mother of life." As Eve being a female who would give birth to the next generation, this sentence seems logical and sensible. Important to note that Aramaic pronunciations for the consonant E in Aramaic can be translated into English as either an E or an A. With this in mind, Eve can be Ava. We found in Hebrew the name Eve, Ava, was Hawa, Ava, but the verbal root which gave rise to the name was Haya, to live. Hence, Eve was akin to the Sumerian Ninti, which meant Lady of Life. The Sumerian word Ti meant to make live, but another Sumerian word, Ti, pronounced Ti, meant rib. An intriguing reference to the biblical rib was made by the Protestant dissenter Matthew Henry in the early 1700s, whereas Genesis states that God said to Eve that Adam shall rule over thee, a sexist guideline adopted by the Catholic and Anglican churches. The church dissenters claimed that Eve was not made out of Adam's head so as to rule over him, nor out of his feet to be trampled upon him, but out of his side to be equal with him. In presuming the rib symbolism to be emblematic of male and female equality, the dissenters were more at odds with Episcopal dogma than is generally portrayed by the reluctance towards the Book of Common Prayer, the Lady of the Serpent. In considering the word Haya, to live, it is of interest to note that the similar Arabic word Hayy denoted a female serpent, whilst Hayat related to life. As detailed by the linguist Balaji Mandkur, the words were all similar in origin, and the definitions of life and serpent were mutually supportive. This is particularly relevant since Eve, Hawa, or Hawa, was not only the Lady of Life, but was also described as the Lady of the Serpent. Is this why the story says that Eve had the conversation with the serpent and not Adam? Interestingly enough, Nefertiti has been referred to as the First Lady and has connections to serpent symbolism. You can see in Egyptian royal depictions that they were snake-like to include the wearing of the emblem on the forehead. She is depicted as wearing basically nothing, if not at the most just translucent clothing in her garden. The word kafa roughly translates to mean swollen or puffed up, which is how the Egyptian queen is depicted in imagery. So it's pretty certain she was referred to as kafa because she was actually swollen. Are we seeing a similarity with Eve, who was called Chava, which was eventually translated into Greek Eva, Ua, and then into the English Eve? Nefertiti can be seen wearing the snake Chava emblem, hence her logical nickname being Chava or Eve. Are we seeing the similarities? Looking to the Sumerian Text, Ninkhursag's title, Ninti, was applied to her surrogate daughter and transposed to the name Eve. It was correctly interpreted by the Genesis compilers, but its further association with Adam's rib was wholly inaccurate and had nothing whatever to do with the original accounts. Important to note that the symbol of the snake is ancient and has referred to knowledge throughout the ages. So someone with knowledge could be identified as having knowledge by the use of snake symbolism, such as wearing headgear with a snake that covers the forehead. Supposed differences. The fundamental difference between the Sumerian records and the Genesis version of the creation of modern humankind was that the new men and women did not emerge in ready-made adult form. They were scientifically induced with human ova fertilized by the Anunnaki to be placed as cultured embryos into the wombs of surrogate mothers. As a result, they were born quite naturally as babies. Ninkhursag being uniquely great makes the womb contract. Ninkhursag being a great mother sets the birth-giving going. Most people wouldn't think there would be any, or that you could find connections between the biblical character Eve, the Egyptian queen, and the Sumerian Anunnaki Ninkhursag. Why would a person consider that thought when the biblical doctrine mystifies Eve as the first woman from who all creation originates? It's important to get our hands on literal translations and to gain an understanding that doctrine does not provide. We have to look outside the Bible at older texts to determine whether or not there are similarities with these fantastical stories that have been told for generations. If we are finding similarities, we then have to ask questions that may make people uncomfortable, but shouldn't deter the process of discovering the truth. Could it be that the story of Eve, the biblical mother of all living, is more intricately woven into history than we have ever imagined? Have the threads connecting this biblical character to an Egyptian queen who shows ties to the Sumerian Anunnaki Goddess Ninkhursag have unraveled the very fabric of our understanding? Join us on this journey of revelation as we continue to explore the mysteries of our past and perhaps uncover even more astonishing truths. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us what you think. Until next time.